Reads. My name is Heather. I'm so glad you're here. I hope you're getting excited for the holidays coming up, as am I. And I have some holiday content coming up for you, but today I wanted to share with you all the books that I picked up over the summer and the autumn. I have quite a few here. Grab yourself a cup of coffee. Today I am feeling in need of this mug, which says, "The trick is to keep pedaling." And I felt like maybe some of you might need that message. Anyways, get cozy, relax, and let's get started. Before I get started, I just wanted to show you the Mina Lima print behind me from the Mina Lima version of The Wizard of Oz. My friend went to the UK with her family and surprised me when she came back with that print. The certificate of authenticity, and the name of it is The Guardian of the Gate, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. It's number 83 of 250 prints. So it's limited edition and it's so special. So thank you so much, Erica. I love it. I also wanted to show you another gift that I received when I went to Canada for Canadian Thanksgiving. My niece, Victoria, she knows how much I love books and illustrated books. So she brought me some illustrated books that she had found for me. So I was so happy. This is Robinson Crusoe, Tom Sawyer, and Heidi, and I was just so touched. I love them. They're so sweet. They are Ferguson Publishing and illustrated by Anita Nelson. So there's one of her illustrations. Thank you so much, Victoria, sweetheart. I love them. I'm always excited about this time of year. I love it when Anthropologie puts out their new 12 Days of Christmas plates. And I've been collecting 1 or 2, sometimes 3 plates every year since they started doing this. But this just arrived a couple of days ago, the 2 that I bought this year. So it's this plate, and the artist this year is Lou Rota. I just thought this was so sweet with the Highland Coo. And then the other one I really love is this goose, which is the 6 Geese a Lay, and the other one was 8 Maids a Milking. So I just had to show you these before we get started. The first book I want to show you I picked up at my local bookstore, and that is The Last Star Dog by E.K. Mosley, published by Flying Eye Books. And it is just a stunning book. I mean, looking at it just makes me smile. It's so pretty. It is about a star dog that comes down from the sky in search of other star dogs and goes on adventures, and on the way meets friends, and some of these friends have stories of their own. It really is just a beautiful book about friendships and having courage and facing adversity and finding beauty in the world around you. And boy, does it deliver its message so beautifully. Let me show you an illustration. So there's one of them. I chose this one because I love the persimmons. It's just really stunning. I think it might actually be, I think I read somewhere that it's E.K. Mosley's debut picture book. If you love fantasy like The Never-Ending Story or The Last Unicorn or The Little Prince, then you'll like this. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a feeling of memory, or it's just got that same sort of element of fantasy going for it that those stories do. So I highly recommend. This next book that I want to show you is from a publishing company called North South Books, and I have long been an admirer of this publishing company. What sets them apart is that they publish new children's books that are just beautiful, but they also republish classic and vintage illustrators. And they kindly sent me Bernadette Watts' version of Snow White, which I'm actually going to talk about in another video as we move into winter. I love to read fairy tales in the winter, but I just wanted to show you this one because it is so pretty and I was so excited to receive it. Here's an illustration for you, just so you could see the inside. Bernadette Watts is a prolific illustrator who has a ton of children's books out there. And she's still active, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. She has been illustrating books for North and South. I think it was actually the Noord-Zuid Verlag publishing company at the time, but for 50 years. and she is actually a British illustrator, and she has just created so many beautiful books. So I wanted to show you this. I also have her Hansel and Gretel as well as her The Little Mermaid. So beautiful. I just love her artwork. So happy to have this. Over the summer, my son and I read The Invention of Hugo Cabret, and it really opened our minds to the history of filmmaking, and especially in regards to Georges Méliès. And soon after we read that, I spotted this book called Action by Megan McCarthy, and I just had to get it. It is so interesting. It talks about the history of filmmaking to the present day films, and it's beautifully illustrated, very informative, and we were both really excited to find that it had a section on Georges Méliès, which if you don't know him, you will recognize it once you see this illustration. Georges Méliès was a pioneering filmmaker who started making films right when editing was invented, and he made a ton of fantasy films. And besides this one, which is called A Trip to the Moon, which came out in 1902, he made a slew of other films that are just wonderful, including the very first children's story to be adapted into film, which was, by the way, Cinderella, in case you're interested. But yeah, this book is wonderful. Let me go back a bit and show you. It starts off by discussing film when it really was just moving pictures, and of course it shows you the Georges Méliès onto some of the early silent films, like this is from Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm, which was made in 1917. And it also discusses how filmmakers had to put dialogue in little film captions on separate slides, which I thought was really interesting. Another thing it talks about, which I found really fascinating, is how ideas build upon each other. A lot of the very iconic scenes that we see in some of the movies today actually came from classic film. One of the examples they give us is this famous scene where you have a huge clock and somebody hanging from the hands, and you'll probably know it from Back to the Future, which is where, of course, I know it the most from. But also you get it in the movie Hugo, which was adapted from The Invention of Hugo Cabret. But really, the very first time that appeared in cinema was Harold Lloyd in Safety Last in 1923. It's really cool because all the black and white movies are in black and white and the colored movies are in colors. But yeah, I just really like this book, and I wanted to show you guys. I highly recommend it if you have any kids who are interested in learning about movies or the history of filmmaking. It's a really good choice, even if for you, if you just want an interesting quick glance at the history of film, you might really enjoy this. So I highly recommend it. The next book is the new Mina Lima, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and we have already read it. And I have to say, it is actually my favorite of all of them so far. I'm reading them for the first time with my son, and like I said in a previous video, we're kind of reading them at the same pace that Mina Lima puts theirs out, because we really both just love their illustrations. There's one of them. One of the things that is also just wonderful are their pop-ups. And here's a really pretty one. So I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, their books never disappoint, and I really love this, and I can't wait until the next one, Goblet of Fire. And my husband and I are wondering how they're gonna do this. I mean, because Goblet of Fire is, I think it's like at least a third longer than this one. So I wonder if they're gonna keep it in one volume or do 2 volumes or how they're gonna do it, but it'll be interesting. Knowing Mina Lima and their genius for innovation, I'm sure they'll figure out something amazing. I've been on the lookout for a collection of Shakespeare retellings, and this Tales from Shakespeare from Michael Morpurgo was love at first sight. We read a lot of Michael Morpurgo and love his writing, and secondly, what I loved most about it was that every tale is illustrated by a different illustrator. Here's the table of contents. A Midsummer Night's Dream, The Tempest, The Taming of the Shrew, King Lear, Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, The Winter's Tale, Macbeth, Henry V, and Twelfth Night. And they're all illustrated by a different illustrator, including Christian Birmingham, Ian Beck, who I've spoken about before on this channel, Peter Bailey, Michael Foreman, and some other illustrators who I didn't know before, but who I've learned, and I love their work. And I just am so excited about this. I'm gonna probably leave it till the winter time to read to my son. Here's an illustration from Macbeth by Dapo Adiola. Love the style. It's just beautiful. And this illustrator I recognize immediately, Ian Beck, and that's an illustration from Twelfth Night. And what I really love is there's a couple of original lines from Shakespeare in each of these illustrations. Just a gorgeous version, so happy to have. I have more pictures on my Instagram account if you are interested in seeing some of the other illustrators. So the next books are just books that I picked up. They're not illustrated. The first one is Halloween Party, which is also my first Blackwell's purchase. I've actually never ordered from Blackwell's before, but I've been admiring the books that come out in the UK forever. One of the hardest things for a book collector in America is sometimes seeing how beautiful the books in the UK are. And so I ended up ordering this one from the UK and still working through it. I have had to throw myself into Anna Green Gables for my blog post, so I've been reading a ton of Anna Green Gables books, Anna Green Gables related books, but I've still managed to sneak in a little bit of reading here and there, and so very slowly making my way through it, but I am enjoying it. It's really good so far. Another book my sister bought for me was A Single Thread of Moonlight by Laura Wood. I had never heard of this author before, and I found out about her through Miranda Mills' channel, and I ended up turning my sister onto her, who also loves her. And then I purchased this for my sister for her birthday, so she sent me this for my birthday. Now, my birthday is actually in April. This was my eventual birthday gift from my sis. Speaking of Agatha Christie, I picked up her Sleeping Murder, which is another one I'm pleasure reading and also reading slowly through. I really love these William Morrow editions with cover illustration by Holly Ovenden. I hope I'm saying that right. And I think I'm going to try and collect all of the paperback versions of these because I think they're just gorgeous. And then I added one more book to my Penguin Orange collection. Penguin Classics has their 12 American classics in their Penguin Orange collection. And I just had to laugh when I realized that the artist who does the cover illustration is the same artist who I spoke of in one of my previous videos when I was discussing Annihilation. His name is Eric Nyquist. And I didn't realize it was the same illustrator, and then I don't know how I figured it out, but suddenly I was like, wait a minute! So that was pretty cool. So I guess Eric Nyquist does all the Penguin Orange classics as far as I know, but it's just really cool. I think my next Penguin Orange that I have my eye on will probably be John Steinbeck's East of Eden. Okay, so that is it for my new books. Now I want to show you the used books that I picked up. On my last video, I spoke of Janet and Anne Graham Johnston and showed you Anne's version of The Water Babies and Peter Pan. I told you I was waiting on A Year of Poetry, and it has arrived. And I love it. I think it's so pretty. I actually photographed it and put it on my Instagram and Facebook accounts earlier this week as soon as it arrived. But I wanted to show it to you here on YouTube as well. So here's October. And not only is it beautifully illustrated, but it has some well-known songs and poetry. This one's by Christina Rossetti, October. Who Has Seen the Wind? And here I thought I would show you November. November Wood for Burning. Beechwood fires burn bright and clear if the logs are kept a year. Chestnuts only good, they say, if for years 'tis stored away. Birch and fir wood burn too fast, blaze too bright, and do not last. But ashwood green and ashwood brown are fit for a queen with a golden crown. Speaking of Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm, I found this version in my local used bookstore. It's by Golden Press, and it's illustrated by June Goldsboro, whose illustrations you might know from the little golden books, Raggedy Ann and Andy. There's a lot of golds in this presentation. There's one of her illustrations. I want to make a collection of these, and I noticed that Eight Cousins by Louisa May Alcott, which is a book I've been keen to read, is out from this publisher as well, and has the same thing going with the wraparound cover and the same look. I'll probably keep an eye out for that one, and hopefully we'll find it somewhere. I found this Grosset and Dunlap version of Five Peppers and How They Grew by Margaret Sidney, illustrated by William Sharp. It doesn't have its dust jacket, but I really like it just the way it is. I think they look so attractive on the bookshelf with these really cute spines. And I have another one. I have Hans Brinker and the Silver Skates. I want to collect them all. There's end papers there. William Sharp was an illustrator who escaped Nazi Germany and came to America and made his career here and illustrated quite a few children's books of that era. Very sweet illustrations. So I really love this. We recently received our very first Cricut magazine in the mail. I have mentioned on this channel before how I've been looking up these vintage versions of Cricut magazine. This is the very first Cricut magazine that was ever published. And the art director of these magazines is Trina Schardt-Hyman. And I love her artwork. So when I was used bookstore shopping, I found her version of Peter Pan. And I've kind of been on the lookout for her version since I did my Peter Pan Illustrator Explorer last autumn. Look how cute Nana is, the dog. She had me at this picture. This was such a beautiful picture. There's a color illustration for you so you can see, but there's just so many illustrations throughout. It's been more recently published, but I love this one because I love what's under the dust jacket, and it's just this red version under the dust jacket. Trina Schardt-Hyman is a Philadelphia-born illustrator who lived in Boston, and then I think she moved to New Hampshire, I think. So she's definitely been all over New England, and her work is prolific. I believe her version of Little Red Riding Hood was recently published in a beautiful new format. And if you're interested, I'll leave a link below and I'll pop up a picture of it for you here. But she's just a wonderful illustrator. In fact, the lady who works in my library, every time I go in there and we talk about illustrators, she always says, I love Trina Schardt-Hyman. Anyway, she's just wonderful, so I had to show you guys that. And I just had to tie it in with these Cricut magazines because she was an art director of the Cricut magazines. So I thought that you'd find that interesting. Another series of books that I like to collect are the New York Review's Children's Collection, and I came across Jenny and the Cat Club, written and illustrated by Esther Averill. And you can see one behind me, I have The Rescuers. When I started getting into collecting books, they were probably the first ones that ever caught my eye that I decided to start collecting. Jenny and the Cat Club is a book I have not actually ever read. I do know the Firecat one. I've read that with my son a few times, but I don't know Jenny and the Cat Club. From what I understand, it's about a cat named Jenny who lives with a captain, and there's a neighborhood club of cats, and she really wants to be in this club, but she doesn't think she has what it takes to be in this club. And I'll show you, I perused some of the illustrations and I found this one very interesting, which is the club members. So we have Mr. President here, and then we have Romulus, Remus, Junior, Arabella, Antonio, Butterfly, the Duke, Macaroni, Sinbad, Solomon, and Jay Linsky, which I think is, if I'm not mistaken, is Jenny. But anyway, and there's the Cat Club emblem. And I was reading a little bit about it, and Jenny is indeed based on a real cat. I just thought it was really cute, so I wanted to read this. I went up to Guelph, Ontario, to Canada to spend Canadian Thanksgiving with my husband's family. And my sister-in-law took me to a bookstore in Guelph called Janus Books, and their books mark right there. Roald Dahl 40th anniversary edition, and we did not have a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory copy. And I love this because it's Quentin Blake's illustrations, but they're all in color. At that same bookstore, I was really happy to find the folio edition of Love in a Cold Climate by Nancy Mitford. And I've been eyeballing this one for a while. It's really pretty, and it's illustrated by Roland Pym, who also did The Pursuit of Love. There's one of the illustrations there. The next book I found at my local antique store. If you go down to the basement, it has tons of books everywhere. It's really beautiful. It's illustrated by Robert Quackenbush, who is the illustrator of those Howard the Duck books, and I think Aladdin has been republishing the Howard the Duck books. And there's another one, Reader's Digest, published in 1984. So yeah, and it was just so pretty. I loved it. So I'm happy to have that. I'm so excited to show you The Wind and the Willows, illustrated by David Peterson. And I have loved this book at first sight. David Peterson is the creator of the graphic novel series Mouse Guard, which I actually have a print that I picked up at one of the Comic-Con San Diego's I go to. I picked that one up at his booth and it was hanging on my wall. And one day I was researching and saw this beautiful version of The Wind and the Willows, and I was like, wow, that's so pretty. Wow, that's so pretty. Where have I seen this? And then I looked up on the wall and I was like, it's the same illustrator. Let me show you a couple of them. It's just ornate and gorgeous. Some of them are in full color. Some of them are in like burgundy or maroon black, which is beautiful. So there's one of them, and it's all throughout. I'm head over heels in love with this version of Wind and the Willows. Here's another one where you can see some of it. This version is unabridged. Unfortunately, it's only available on the secondhand market now because it's out of print. Maybe one day they'll reprint it, but it's just gorgeous. Well, that is it. I am so sorry if this video has been a little jumpy. It's because I'm trying to, you know, cut around the leaf blowers. I will have my next video out the week after next. I'm trying to get on a schedule, and it seems like having a video every other Saturday is what works for me, so I'm going to try and maintain that schedule. I really enjoy doing this. I'm having such a good time, and I hope that you enjoy my videos as well. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you are in America and you celebrate Thanksgiving, or if you're abroad and you celebrate Thanksgiving. If you're away from family, I hope you're not too lonely. I've had a few of those Thanksgivings away from families when I lived in Africa. And I remember that feeling of it being Thanksgiving and knowing everybody's getting together back home and you're not there. And so if you're in that situation, I've been there and I know how you're feeling. And so I hope that you're okay and you find a way to enjoy the day. But otherwise, I will see you the very first few days in December, and keep warm and keep well and take care. Bye.